Welcome to Jesus in Focus 20. I'm Christopher John Joseph in Melbourne, Australia, a non-denominational follower of Jesus of Nazareth, born into the Catholic faith branch of the Tree of Jesus 68 years ago. But by the time I was 17, I saw his message was universal love and non-violence, and so I just simply became a follower of Jesus. And I've been extremely interested in all great spiritual teachings and teachers in the world that we've ever had who understand the true purpose of life here, which is to reach a heavenly world of love from here, a dualistic world, into a world that's only love. So any teacher who's taught peace and love and non-violence and the singularity of the mind being just empowered by love, I'm always interested in those teachers. What Jesus taught, any single child on earth can reach heaven if they just follow his way of love and non-violence. Everything comes from those two really powerful top of Mount Everest teachings of his, and if anyone's following those, then everything they'll do will be good. It'll be okay. You won't hurt anyone. You won't join armies. You'll never join an army, even when you're being attacked, as the Christian church was for the first 315 so years. They were always just pacifists. This is a book, The Gospels of Jesus Unplugged, that I've just published, which is essentially a more clearer translation of Jesus' words, and I'll be using them in the words of Jesus because I've had to extrapolate and amplify his words, because the old 2,000-year-old traditional words can be easily misunderstood. So I've had to correct and just expand and clarify them, magnify them, so that they echo his meaning more clearly and more easily understood. That's available worldwide now online. jcinfocus@gmail.com if anyone wishes to drop me a comment about Jesus. I believe he's a pacifist. If any Christian watches this and doesn't believe that, please email me. Or if you do, please email me. I love support. I don't mind being, criticised either. That's fine. This is the book I'm writing on at the moment, which this small YouTube video is from. This is only the beginning of the book. I'm still having a bit of trouble because I have a bit of a health problem with the lung and body, so it's slow going. But this is the teachings of Jesus Unplugged as opposed to the Gospels of Jesus Unplugged. And this is the really important book that I've been waiting to do for quite a while. So these are just his words, and then I just explain my understanding of his words. As I've always seen him as love and non-violence, then I can see all the gospel words inflected into that and do my best not to misrepresent him, which many of the gospel words unfortunately have done over time. So I shall now get into it, and it is just here. So this is one of the most important parables of Jesus, and it is one of the most overlooked and sort of looked the other way, the elephant in the room, don't talk about this. All the Judeo-Christian churches, because most Christian churches in the world teach the Jewish religion, the Old Testament, and the Christian religion in the same book, which is, my advice is always to cut the Bible in two and put the religious book of the Jews on the shelf. If you want to study that, go ahead. But you must really stay, if you're a Christian, just with the Gospels. So this is, Jesus teaches we have two bodies in one, and this is so stark and so obvious that you can't deny it, but everyone does. It interferes with the general dialogue of most conservative Judeo-Christians' understandings. But these are his words. Now, the words have been added on to by me, so many Christians say, oh, that's no good then. But in fact, there's nothing wrong with expanding his words as long as they're in alignment with his words and they complement his words. If you look at St. Paul's gospel, St. Paul's letters, when he talks about love, well, Jesus just talked about love your neighbour, etc., and who was the Good Samaritan who loved the chap there. But Paul writes about love in this extraordinarily expanded, amplified way, which many people actually use at their weddings and things. So we are allowed to take his beautiful, short, succinct little sayings and just simply amplify them, just make them just more clearer. In this case, I've got to clarify what he's saying, so it's not making it so much more beautiful, but This is a work that clarifies his teachings. That's my goal. I will certainly also talk about how beautiful these words are. So this is the parable that the Judeo-Christian church don't like you really looking at if you're a Christian. What did Jesus really teach? Oh, Jesus teaches we have two bodies in one. What did Jesus really teach about our life on earth in a biological, dualistic, temporary body of flesh, made from material earth elements such as water, gases and earthly foods, and empowered by the intricate interaction of all these different elements, chemicals and body parts, which eventually ends in death? He taught that we all have another hidden body within us, which is eternal, totally spiritual in nature, and singular in its identity, empowered not by various temporary, finite earthly elements, but only by a loving spiritual life force from an eternal, divine spiritual creator in a heavenly spiritual world of perfect love. This is the treasure hidden in the field of our earthly bodies that he spoke of, and which our loving creator offers to all children, all human children, to bring us out of this material world of suffering into a world of spiritual love. The following is one of the most important, overlooked and misunderstood teachings of Jesus, where he literally says we have two different bodies with us right now that will separate at death. Jesus taught, so these are his words now, and this is from the Gospels, but as I say, this is my translation to try to clarify it and make it more easy to understand his words and to avoid misunderstanding or people perverting what he's saying. Jesus taught, he who lives an earthly life of only the flesh will lose it, but he who separates himself out from his life of flesh by following my way and teachings will find his eternal spiritual life. There will be two bodies in a single bed. One is spiritual, one is flesh. The one of spirit will be taken to be received near me. The one of flesh will no longer be of any use, and being redundant will be sent forth. There will be two women grinding at a millstone in the same position. One is spiritual, one is flesh. The one of spirit will be taken to be received near me. The one of flesh will no longer be of any use, and being redundant will be sent forth. There will be two standing in a field. One is spiritual, one is flesh. The one of spirit will be taken to be received near me. The one of flesh will no longer be of any use, and being redundant will be sent forth. The disciples then asked Jesus, "Where will they be, Lord?" Jesus replied, "The dead body of flesh will be where the vultures gather. The body of the spirit will be where the eagles fly." In the Thomas Gospel, Jesus said, "Two will relax on a couch. One will die, one will live." If the flesh has come into being because of the spirit, it is a wonder. However, if spirit came into being because of the flesh, this is a wonder of wonders. But I am amazed at this, how such great richness of spirit could be placed in such poverty of the flesh. And Jesus also taught, "When you know your true selves, then you will be known and understand that you are spiritual children of the divine loving spiritual creator. But if you do not know your spiritual self, then you live in poverty, and your flesh will embody that poverty." All these sayings are about we've got two bodies. He's saying you've got two bodies in one. This very clear and important teaching of Jesus can also be seen in one of his most simple and profound sayings. It is the spirit who gives life. The flesh profits nothing. It returns to the earth. The Greek translations clearly emphasize that there are two bodies in a single bed. Two people cannot be resting in a single bed made only for one. Women in each home ground their own flour on a small personal millstone, which only had room for one person grinding at a time. Yet Jesus clearly emphasizes again that there are two bodies grinding in the same position at the millstone. And there are two standing in a field, and two will relax on a couch. And in all cases, one dies, and one is taken to be received. Jesus is firstly reminding us here that the death experience can occur at any time during our ordinary, daily, and nightly activities. He is then saying at the time of our physical death, our body of flesh is nothing more than food for the vultures. That's all it's worth, or the worms. It has no life in it anymore. But the other body is lifted up above to be received near to someone, not mentioned in the Greek translations, but clearly refers to our divine loving Creator and Himself in the heavenly spiritual world. A person must be alive for them to come to someone to be received by them. Nearly all Bibles translate the Greek word taken, which is the way it's generally written in all the old translations. They translate it inaccurately. It should be translated as to be received near to. That's the correct translation, not just taken. Jesus is stating that our earthly body of flesh returns to the earth from which it was made, and our spiritual body returns to the place and source of its creation, which is the heavenly spiritual world and our loving Creator who made it for us. But where the body of the Spirit goes is missing in all Bibles. Either it has been deliberately deleted because it upset the traditional status quo, or accidentally left out in early translation copies. That is why the Gospels of Jesus Unplugged has included the reference, "The body of the Spirit will be where the eagles fly," as a counterpoint to the vultures. For eagles glide high above the material world, with wings outstretched, lifted up by the wind, amplifying the words of Jesus and their meaning. The word wind, of course, in Greek can also mean spirit, so they're lifted up by the Spirit. Another interesting point that strengthens this analogy is that vultures only feed on lifeless, dead flesh. Eagles, however, mainly live on prey that is still full of life. Our loving Creator's spiritual life force will sustain our spiritual body, mind and soul through the last physical experience we all have to pass through, the death of our temporary body of flesh. This is how we are connected to the heavenly spiritual world from within ourselves, for the loving spiritual life force that sustains our soul and spiritual body comes from heaven, not the earth. This is the living, eternal spiritual body that Jesus spoke of, that we need to become at one with and consolidate while we're here on earth by manifesting the spiritual love in us through our temporary physical body and life. Jesus taught that if we can be spiritual in a material, dualistic world, we have overcome the world just as He did. Most Judeo-Christians have not understood this very important teaching, and many try to link it to a belief in an apocalyptic rapture event involving two completely different people in the bed, field, or at a mill. So a lot of the Judeo-Christian children love to talk about the apocalypse and Revelations, the end of the world, and they say this very clear teaching of Jesus, that you have two bodies, it's not about that. They're saying they're perverting His teachings, destroying His teachings, really. Surprisingly and shockingly, some Christian teachers even go so far as to say those who are taken to be received near are being thrown into hell, and those who remain will be saved. A complete misunderstanding and corruption of what Jesus was really saying. You can find these online, these Christian organisations or churches, who I've found them who actually teach that the ones taken to be near Jesus and the divine loving one in heaven, they say that really means they're going to be taken into hell at the end of the apocalypse. I mean, it's not a laughing matter, because they're poisoning children's minds and perverting the teachings of Jesus and slandering God at the same time. So that's not a very good thing to do, not wise. So in Matthew 16:26, Jesus teaches, "For what does it profit a man if he gains the whole material world, but injures his spirit and soul? Or what thing is only earth and material can a man exchange for his spirit and soul?" Again, Jesus is pointing out that two different bodies are formed from different sources and are not interchangeable. So I'll leave it there. I think that's probably, we'll leave it at that. Just very short. But that's the extremely important teaching of Jesus that you can find in the Gospels, about the absolute fact that he taught. We all have two bodies right now, and one of your bodies is going to die, of course, as we all know, and it will simply disintegrate into the earth elements, and there is no life in it, and you may as well throw it to the vultures, burn it, whatever you wish to do. There's no life in it anymore. The body that has the life in it is the spiritual body. As Jesus said, it's the spirit who gives life, the flesh profits nothing. And it is that spiritual body that then goes back to its source, the one who created it for you and me. And that's when we come into the presence of perfect love. And that's when we have to see how perfect has our love been. And that's where everyone reaps what they sow. So Vladimir Putin, Hamas, the Israeli army, Ukraine army, Russian army, all these children who are murdering and slaughtering other children, they will reap what they sow, don't worry. It's sad to say this, but at the moment they're all on the road to hell. It's their own choosing. They could drop their guns and bombs and go home and love their family, and love their neighbours themselves. They've chosen not to do that. Someone always starts it, of course. Someone's evil first, and then someone's evil second. But I don't think the loving Creator sees much difference, because they're all her children that they're killing. They don't get it. They don't understand who God is. So while they're slaughtering the children of this divine loving Creator in heaven, they'll be in her presence, his presence, if you think male, and that's when they'll be really, really sorry. But it'll be too late, and then they'll have to undergo reaping what they sow. So let us not be in their boots when we die, but let us walk in the shoes of peace and love, or the sandals of peace and love. Never join an army, never pick up a gun. I'm against all armies in the world which are militarized to the point of, threatening other countries. Yes, coast guards are needed and border guards and such things like that, sure. But not armies, no, not these military mass armies, armaments industries. This is a satanic evil that's poisoning the world, poisoning the minds of children, and little children are being taught to murder and kill other children in the army or the navy or the air force. All they're learning is death. And only those who have the courage to be pacifists, they're the bravest people in the world. Jesus was one of them, and they murdered him. Look at Mahatma Gandhi, murdered. Martin Luther King, murdered. These children who wake up to heaven and who we really are, they're a threat to all the people of power and money worshippers. But if enough of us become pacifists and don't join any armies anymore and don't support the armaments industry, then the crackpots like Putin and Hitler and all the others, Netanyahu, they won't have any soldiers to do their evil bidding. So it's the universal soldier who really is to blame. The order comes from far away no more. You've got to make up your own mind if you're a soldier. Drop your gun and go home. May everyone in the world make their way to heaven, but there's only one way to get there, and that's love and non-violence. There isn't another way that I know of. Since heaven's only love, then if you're not only love, singular, your spiritual body will leave your physical body. Jesus says that here very clearly. 2 bodies in a single bed, one stays, one goes. Just remember you've got a second body, so therefore we mustn't be too frightened of dying, although of course it can be very painful and extremely agonizing and quite horrific, the death experience. I don't underestimate that at all for many people, many children. But all physical things are finite, and all spiritual bodies leave our physical body. So eventually they're freed from the agony or torture or the bombing that's going on now and the shooting and the killing. everyone that's being killed and slowly dying in the wars and in the disasters around the world that continue to occur, of course, natural disasters. Their spirits have been released from their body through great suffering, but there is no suffering in heaven whatsoever, and anyone who causes suffering here, you can't enter. Sorry. They're the words of Jesus, but I back them up. I think that's a good idea. May your spiritual body become fully awakened before your physical body dies. And when you're leaving your physical body, if you don't believe there's life after death, then I hope you get a pleasant surprise. You only have to lead a good life and love and not hurt anyone. Don't worship money and greed and all the rest of it. And you'll get a pleasant surprise when your spiritual body leaves your body. You'll actually find you're still alive. Your spiritual consciousness will be quite awake. I don't know anything about that. I have no visions of that or anything. I'm not one of those people. I just believe it, and it makes sense to me. And I have had signs from heaven sent to me for sure during my illness to help me, as heaven always helps everyone who is trying to do good things in the world, and that's all I can say. When your spiritual body leaves your physical body, and it's going to happen, I pray you've spent a lot of time in your spiritual body loving your family, your friends, your neighbours, etc. May the divine loving spiritual life force of the loving Creator in the heavenly spiritual world of love fill your spiritual body, turn its light on, flow that love into you and through you and out through your physical body while you're here, manifest it through your physical body to bring that love to children in this dangerous, dualistic, material world. Love your way to heaven.